to see these things as punishment, you are automatically putting yourself as the weaker person. You are automatically flipping the natural order of things. Because remember, like I said, the Bible says, I have seen princes walking and slaves riding on horsebacks. So if there's anything you will leave with today, is don't fall into the poverty of ownership. Don't. Because the minute we leave that, that is the meaning that democracy will move forward a step in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Judah.
Any questions?
So, our speaker for the day has spoken. The first speaker for the day has spoken. And then I don't know if any of you would want to ask a few questions or two. Anybody from the audience? Yeah. Okay.
So thank you so much, Mr. Judah, for your presentation. I wish I was here earlier to get to it. But my question is this. You spoke heavily about demanding accountability. And you spoke about a concept of poverty that is alien to a lot of us. You know, we're a country that has not even eaten well. How do we decide first we chop benefit before we begin the actual accountability? Is it not like unfair for you to be asking us to seek accountability at this point in time where we've not been eating? So that's question number one. So let me allow you to answer this question.
That is a very, very valid question, right? But remember that accountability is not the only thing, it's not the only ingredient that we're missing. Let's start there, right? Now, before you came, I said something. I said, even in our civic duties, right? I said the average poor man doesn't have an issue cheating their fellow poor man, right? Now, any opportunity to step on a fellow poor person will take it, right? Now, there are 80% of these problems that we suffer are not even created by this external system we see as the government. A lot of the hardships we are subjected to are created by us. So, to get us to the point where we can even breathe, if we look inward, we can solve 50% of these problems by ourselves. Do you understand? So you see that this joke where we think that everything is coming from the government, half of it is created by self.
So you listen to the next question. So, no, you could just stay with the mic. So we have a very recent case of NNPCL, the Melekari and the Senate. We found a case where distinguished Senator Adams Oshomole came out to call NNPC what it was. According to him, bunch of thieves and criminals. And then you find the majority of the Senate say no. Let me quote, I think it's a doctor or so, but Chief Odd Jules Okalu, he said, NLC is a life wire of Nigeria, so don't call them names. Now, in your answer to my question, you said a lot of these problems are caused by we, because the poor man wants to step on the next poor man. But here's a classical case of, in quote, the rich man trying to correct another rich man, and rich men covering him up for things that they do that affect the welfare of the people. So this is a classical case. How do we think accountability is a reality we can arrive at in Nigeria? Because Oshomole is not a small man, a former two-term governor of Edo State, former Labour president, now a two-term senator. So do you think accountability is something that can be achieved in Nigeria, side by side with the situating with the topic of this conclave, the weaponization of poverty, and then the strangulation of the beneficiaries of democracy? So an average man who sees this, have you picked my question?
Yes.
Okay, please.
I'll answer that in one sentence.
Okay.
The problem still remains that we think the opinions of Adams and Oji matter over our opinions.
So what should we do? What should we do?
One, I said, what is one, an average person who thinks they are enlightened, right? Thinks that poverty, how they exercise the power of poverty is over poor men by paying them to vote in their favor, correct? But there's still, I said scarcity is a vehicle and poverty is the destination. Stay with me. Now, an average educated person, the destination of poverty in their life that has been achieved is political apathy, right? They get them to the point where they are not interested in the things of the government, right? Now, the fact that they are not interested, these systems will always prevail because the major people who claim to be learned have apathy towards these things, right? So we will never get to that point because person who even see they get problem. The first stage of grief is acceptance, or now getting to the point of acceptance. And as long as this doesn't happen, there will never be a change. So you see that the change that we need first is to be able to be honest to ourselves. And I feel that is something we're lacking as a nation, right? Because 80% of us here, if you ask us, will say we're not part of the problem. Me, I'm guilty of political apathy. I'll tell that straight. So how can we get to the point where the voices of Senator Adams and Ojiros Okano will never be the loudest voices? But in reality, their voices don't matter. Nobody in Nigeria till today still remembers that the presidency, the office of the presidency, is the office of the Minister of Petroleum. We don't even remember that this happened in the time of Buhari. How can we now even question or demand accountability when you don't understand that this office requires separation and has to function as a standalone entity on its own? So, as long as we're not even asking that question, we're not still saying, oh, NNPC this, NNPC that, when the head of NNPC is still the number one person. Do you understand where I'm going? We're looking at the wrong things.
Okay, if I should, not a question. I don't know what time they allocated to you, but let's stay within the confines of that time. So you're standing here as, you are an authority over us, yeah, correct? And you're in the media space. It's a niche that you own and then you control, for those who know. If you look around, even from our chat on WhatsApp in our community, someone asked me a question a few days ago. I wanted to make a comment or a statement, maybe probably if someone else asks questions to ask. Maybe I ask question. Because if not they know now ask question, they're part of the problem.
Exactly.
So on our community, it seems like it is only myself and him, and then a few others are active. And then somebody asked me, why this place is not active? I said, no, I don't waiting to post to make them active. Get an irrelevant news that is a lie, post it. Say Muslims want to Islamize Nigeria today, say Christians want to Christianize Nigeria today. You hit the politics, everybody's talking. If this place was to be a watch party, let's say we're watching a highly pornographic movie, guy, everybody here could be fooled, you know. So we're live, right?
Yes.
Okay. So for everyone who will have an opportunity to see this, I did not, when I told them to come in live, I did not do it because we're going to have views. It's going to be relevant for the next 10, 30 years. For anybody who comes back to see this, because if we do not stand up to work, we're in a state of docility. If we do not stand up to work, Nigeria would not change.
It will not.
So make a comment to Nigerians today, Nigerians in the next 15 years, Nigerians in the next 30 years, and probably 40 years to come.
Okay, I said that in my presentation. I said a poor person thinks in next meals and not in decades. So till we can get to the point where we think in decades.
Yeah.
You said something now. You said this video is not for today, it's not for views. This video might cause a change in the next 10 years, in the next 20, 30, but you are planting the seed today.
Yeah.
But the average poor person is thinking in his next meal, is operating on a point of survival. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we must consciously choose to think in decades and not in next meals. I said some of these things. I gave an example. I said, most of our parents had the same opportunities that a lot of wealthy billionaires now had. Some of these land allocations, all of this, our parents had the access, the resources, the small systems to get it. But they were thinking on survival. They were not thinking in decades. They never thought about some of us here, or even the children after now. I asked them, I said, some of you, there's nobody here that's not earned 500K, I like to believe. Do you know what the impact 500K, if vested in a trust fund, in treasury bills, over the next 30 years can yield? But guess what? We can all afford to do it. But we're operating from a place of survival. We're thinking.
Nigerians are not daft enough to allow that to happen. My concern is on the fact that there are a number of constitutional battles to that too. Perhaps if you trade well, you discover that. And whoever heads the NOPC, will be based on appointment. And appointment will be based on appointment. And appointment from the president. So perhaps he just appointed. So probably as a resource, I don't have to. Can you just help us to explain as resources? Thank you very much.
Okay. First of all, before I go further, yeah. Please, can you come down? Okay. From the point you raised before I answer your question, you said there's constitutional backings to all of these things, some of these things, correct? Now, since you've done a bit of research on that subject, right? Can you confidently tell me you have all the information that is available to you on that subject? The loopholes, how the power you hold, the part you can play in that. Do you have all the data? But this data exists in the public domain, correct? Myself included, we said he brought up the whole presidency and this thing. As a young person, how many of us have looked into the constitutional backing to these things? How many of us have looked into what we can do? So now you just quoted a site to it to say, oh, and the site you quoted, look at how crazy, how much of a cankerworm this has eaten into us. The part he quoted is the part that might back this decision. But for everything that backs, it means that there will be one that exists that can counter it, correct? Have you looked into that? We don't even know. And that's the first problem. But speaking of the second thing, I said poverty is the most valuable resource in Nigeria, right? Because poverty in the hands of the people who know how to build it. You said, oh, oil, this, that. With some of these things, there's only one part of monetization, right? There's, say, for example, oil. Oil is to refine, export. Jonathan, there's one channel that you can use to exploit it completely, right? But with poverty, it can be exploited in different ways or different forms, right? I gave an example. I said, okay, to the poor people, they exploit it by they're operating on survival. I give you 10K, vote for me. To you that you think you are learned, but you don't know you are existing in the poverty, it's political apathy, right? So another person is silence. So why poverty is so powerful is that it doesn't provide one result. It can be refined and milk to provide almost every resource that is required of it. That's why we live in a time where they say every man has a price. That is the power of poverty. Because someone somewhere believes that no matter who you are, there is a figure you cannot reject. So do you understand how powerful poverty is? Because the product itself is not in one form. Do you understand? It can take different shapes, different forms for whatever is needed. That we stayed there for over 15 years. This guy never crossed AYA. He never knew that there was life outside and after AYA. Now, poverty in the terms that we've seen and come to understand might have influenced why he is there. But nobody stopped him from entering and along to cross AYA. Come to Busitu and say, hey, that's what you be for here. So, what I want us to take home from this is that before the economic one we think that is the biggest problem, there are a million other problems that are in our control to solve and can transform our lives. And the reason why some of us are here today is just as a result of something as little as sight, to know that there's possibilities that exist. Now, the country has not been nice since I started growing up till now. But has the country stopped me? No. But when I continue to look at it from the point of, within Maraba, things are not the government, bro, you will live, grow and die in Maraba. And it's not the fault of, in that case, it's not the fault of the government or the failure of the democratic system. But we are now choosing to remain in the destination of poverty that we came to see. Do you understand? So when you get to that point now, to answer your question now, how do we get to the point where there can be unity in diversity and all of that? Now, the empowerment Mr. Philip has been able to achieve and attain in his life, is it the government that contributed to it, sir?
No. Government won't kill me.
But all of us here are able to meet each other here, right? And be unified by all the personal work we've put into ourselves. Now there's unity in our own diversity here, right? That cannot be influenced by the government. So imagine there's a multiplication of these numbers. Imagine there are a million more people like us here. Okay, remember, look at how crazy it is, right? Remember I said when you're operating from a place of survival, right? Today now, there are a lot of people who saw this event, right? But because they've been operating from a place of survival where every day you wake up, jump on a bus, you come, go back home, stay in traffic, they'll say, today na my only public holiday. Make I just rest. Today again, we person will rest, person will come outside, they listen about democracy. But that person might come here today and hear something that will cause a shift in their life. Okay, today is a public holiday. Is that not even the government giving you a reason why you can afford to attend an event like this? Because if it wasn't a public holiday, most of us would be at work. So you see that some of these things are even advantages that we cannot see, that already exist. But the psychological shift is what we are lacking. And as long as it remains, that is the greatest heist. Any questions? Daddy.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes, the question.
And by my looking, I can see that most people here are youth. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
And I capture your statement when I get that the poverty of resources. Am I correct? And the poverty, the bourgeoisies, they make use of the youths to get what they want.
Yes.
Whose fault is this? That's the question. Because as we are now, we are entering the dispensation of campaign.
Yes, sir.
And when the campaign comes up, it is still the same youths. Some of them are graduates, some of them are graduates, but they don't know they are left from it. Right. And we will succumb to their ways. And this type of forum is to enlighten, and like you mentioned, a shift from psychological base to understand that, yes, this right, you mentioned something like vote. It is my will to vote whomever I want, without looking at the ethnic group, the religions, which is dichotomy now. You're either a Christian or a Muslim, you're either from the north or the south, west or the east. Is it not possible that if the youth work concertedly to dictate and say, this is what we want. We don't want ethnic, we don't want Christianity, but whoever can lead us to the promised land will be able to achieve that. I raise my case.
Yes, Daddy, you are absolutely correct. So that is why everything I've emphasized here today, right, should come from a point of self-reflection and self-evaluation, right? You know this thing they said, be the change that you want, right? In Nigeria, what we do is, you be the change that I want. That is what we do in Nigeria. Mr. Philip should be the change that I want. He should be the change I want, and not me being the change that I want. So, we as a people need to evaluate and self-reflect, right? To look at ourselves and say, are we contributing in all sincerity to our problems? Remember I said, the default nature of human is selfishness. And we don't look at it as a problem individually, but when you see it as a compounded problem and the effect it has, if I am selfish, he is selfish, he is selfish, who then becomes the change? And that is selfishness multiplied to 100. So our first step in the right direction is to be able to look in the mirror, to self-reflect, and truly, in every meaning of the statement, be the change we want to see. In as little, and we should not even look at it from a point of politics. In our personal lives, am I a honest person? Am I loyal to my country? Am I loyal to my fellow citizen? So that as long as we cannot self-reflect, and to me that is our biggest problem. We want others to be the change that we want.
Sorry to divert.
No problem.
Speaking about self-reflection and the situation of the country, democracy has actually used poverty as a pathway into the hearts and minds of its people. So, you are a honest person, you work, you do everything right, everything aligned to what you need. But the situation of the country still allows your ability to go beyond where you are. Because a poor person really does not have a voice. So how do you demand for accountability when you're poor? And the situation ties your two hands together. You can't even break out of that, even if you have everything you need, but just the opportunity to break out.
Okay. The answer to your question is that.
Let me add to what you said so that you can really put it together. For instance, when you are talking about weakening democracy, when they are weak institutions, it will weak a personality.
Yes, sir.
And when you are weak, automatically you think differently.
Yes, sir.
So how do we put this together? Because that is what she said.
Let me give you life so that I can finish now. When you take a trip to Secretariat, I saw a platoon of military men. I saw a platoon of mobile police officers. But we have 45 children in Oyo State. The Honorable here, I don't know by what means, probably by road or by flight, I believe that every kilometer he took, he was praying his mind. I was speaking to my dad now that, okay, I've reached the point of my studies that I would not need to go to Kaduna often. I said, thank God, because every time you're going to Kaduna, my mind will not go to the rest. So, weak institutions, she asked first, the system, the aspirations, weak institutions. Now I'm giving live examples, it's not far from us. So you can now answer the question.
Okay. I'll start with this adage. My hand with the wash, another hand with one hand. Right? Then let me explain what I mean. The biggest problem, right? She said there are some people who will do everything right? And it will still not work out. It's because the ratio of evil to good amongst ourselves is higher. For every one person, every common person doing the right thing, there are a million common people doing the wrong thing. So as long as a big international company, right, they asked them their take on thefts. I think it's a chain of supermarkets. They asked the CSO on his take on theft. And he says that as long as theft only becomes a problem when it's higher than 3 to 5% in the organization, right? So it means that he understands that there cannot be an absence of theft, but it only becomes a problem when it rises above 5%, right? Now, there's no organization, country, system that corruption doesn't exist, insecurity doesn't exist. That's the truth, right? But the problem here is the ratio. And we are the major contributors to that ratio. And remember I said here that, look at all of us here, we have 15, 20 something people in this room, right? Being the change we want to be. Imagine we have a population of over 200 million people. Can we swim on our lives that the ratio of honest people is up to 1% in this country? First of all, we have to understand that the people ruling us are 0.00 something. So we constitute 99 points something, correct? So can we say in all confidence that 1/10 of us are doing this right thing that she said? We cannot say that. And evil will always prevail. I don't know if I answered the question. The ratio is the problem.
I want to believe that poverty, as much as it can be organized because by the government, is also a double-edged sword.
Sorry?
It's a double-edged sword.
Yes.
In the sense that every other society that attained to a level of economic development and industrialization also had the same issues we had. Mm-hmm. And the same issues that is crippling us, or that is being weaponized to cripple us, were the same things that fueled them to become a better society. For example, the Russian society. Russia was poorer, I want to assume, was under a monarchical system and was, to an extent, was a feudal system, with peasants being the highest percentage. Like maybe 70 or 80% of the population were peasants, and then the kings and then the priests. And then that is what spawned revolution. And then caused the scientific revolution, and then Russia became a developed society. And then France also, the same thing. French Revolution. The same thing. So I want to ask, why is it that the same thing that spurs these other societies to become economically viable is the same thing I was speaking about while we are all gathered here today? It's the same thing that is making our own society to be grounded. Why is there no sense of the same thing that spurred them to want to fight to make the society better? It's the same thing that's made us to wash our hands and sit down and say, okay, let's just live like that.
Our problem is knowledge. We have a knowledge problem in this country, right? Knowledge is the only way you can see the opportunity that exists within a problem. Correct? You said these countries, they were able to look at all these ways they were lacking and areas and look at it from a point of opportunities, right? Our first problem before knowledge, right, is that we think that the government happens to us and we're not a player in it, right? First of all, everybody in Nigeria thinks the reason they are broke is because the government happened to them, right? Now, sir, do you know what the Dunning-Kruger's effect is? Can you simply just tell us what the Dunning-Kruger effect is?
Now, that speaks to perception first. My memory of that is shanty, but let me touch what I pick as first. It's perception driven, that it goes through the law of typicality. Let me use a simple example. Let me not use English. That effect says that Tinubu is an expression of a majority of Nigerians. So because that is how we think, that is how we behave, our leaders will always be an expression of us. I don't know if that memory still catches, but you can give that creative.
Okay. So there's another side to it, right? And I'll put it in very layman terms. The successful person and the poor person, right? The poor person is not aware of the knowledge gap between them and the successful people. Now, the fact that there's no knowledge of the gap. Remember what we said about acceptance is the first stage. We don't even know that there is a problem, right? So 90% of young people, right, think the reason their lives are where they are is because of the government, right? Then you look at the few successful people that might have worked on themselves, might have put in work instead, and say, oh, these people are only where they are because they are aligned with the system. Now let's remember something. Some of these people you look at are aligned with the system, correct? Most of them are there because of the knowledge that they have. So it means that you would have the opportunity to be in those same rooms if you were in possession of knowledge. But guess what? We are not even aware of the knowledge gap. We just believe that on our own end, Nigeria happened to us, while on their end, they are a beneficiary of the system that exists. So, to answer your question, knowledge is the biggest problem. I'll give you a simple business idea, right? Recently now, I've seen 2 companies that have portable power stations, right? And do rent power banks for events. Now, one company, they have a stand, right? And it has several power banks on it. So when you're at events, they are vendors, and your phone is dead, they can rent a power bank to you, right? Now, they rent the power bank to you at 2,000 naira or so, but you pay 15k. Now, why do you pay 15k? So you decide to go with the power bank, it's now your own. But if you return the power bank, they refund you 13,000 naira, right? Now, do you know that 80% of youths in Maraba are the ones that are supposed to have ideas like that? Because they've existed all their lives. under such conditions, and they go to recharging. But they can't even see. They can only see that, oh, no electricity. If to say electricity, they are forgetting to take. But you can rent power banks at an event. Do you understand? That is why we can't see the opportunities that exist in poverty. And economic poverty in this context. Does that answer your question? Wow.
Sorry.
You know, problem.
Have that idea.
Yes, it is.
But you cannot bring it to reality because you don't have the resources. You don't even have the right network or the resources. You can still have that idea and you die with it.
If you have knowledge, knowledge is not. So the problem with us, right, is we have too much ideas, right? But what knowledge does for you, right, is equips you with actionable information and an actionable pathway, right? So I'll give an example. There might be somebody in Maraba that has thought of that power bank thing, right? And the only thing he can see is that, if you say I get 2 million naira, right? You say I get 2 million naira, I forfeit run this business. And I no get 2 million naira because for this my job where I work for government, now 80K they pay me. But knowledge tells you that even in business, right, there's something called sweat equity. What does sweat equity mean? It means that in that partnership, what you bring to the table is sweat. Is your knowledge, is your ability to execute, right? And the other part of the partnership is the person who brings capital, right? Now, our second, I'm going to marry them together. Our second problem is that we're going to investors, right, with ideas. And these ideas we're going to people with is ideas that don't have actionable data behind them. The average, see, you can get money from anybody if you have actionable information, if you have proof of concept. Why should you come and meet me and say, sir, do you know if you give me 5 million naira that I can be making 50K every day? If they ask you, do you have a business plan for this? No. Have you done feasibility studies for this? No. Now, if you go with that idea to 100 people, 100 of them will tell you no. Because of the knowledge problem. You don't have actionable information. Now, to answer your question, just like I said, yeah, when you have actionable data, what is actionable data? For me to get to point A, from point A to point B, I need to do this, and this, right? Okay, for me to start this business, there are different parts. I can go and source for the funds myself, I can get investments, I can do crowdfunding, and to what I told to him, right? We don't even have enough information around all the possibilities that exist around the ideas that we have. Do you understand? There is no rule book for success. There's no, this can only happen for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There are different unequal and opposite reactions that can get actions. Do you understand? So, if you keep looking at it as, what if you have the ideas but you don't have, it's still because there is enough. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of what? He didn't say lack of anything else. He could have said lack of anything, but he said knowledge.
But even the people with knowledge also suffer and smile.
Now they choose to suffer and smile.
When you don't have a choice.
Remember, I feel you were always simple. See, taking homes. One, the percentage of evil to good is much in Nigeria, right? Now, all of these conditions you're saying will not exist if the percentage of good to evil was higher. And we now become people who are knowledgeable. And guess what? See, that is the one thing nobody can rob you of. See, anybody in this day and time who is poor economically, when I mean poor, I don't mean you necessarily have to be rich, right? Anybody who is poor by choice. Because information is available to you. Any other questions? Very deep conversations.
I'm going to ask a question. Yeah, don't benefit. I also follow and I see here.
Remember, the take home today is self-reflection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's allow him to sit down first. But let him know who. Just in case you need to run. The reason is we're expecting, though we have one prof here, we're expecting a second prof. And the beauty of this, when he comes in, I think they had some issues and then they left late. You know, he's talking from the self-reflection perspective. And then the next speaker, of course, is a lawyer, also a politician, also an aspirant. He's also in a leading political party, APC. So he's also in Nigeria. And from the last time I know of him, he's an astute person. So there's some, I'm thinking, should I ask him those questions or should I wait for him to finish it for me and then we'll meet all of them together? But then before you run, Her Excellency, Her Royal Highness has taken time to talk consistently about questions are coming from the perspective of variable A is dependent on the occurrence of variable B, which is poverty, which the leaders have given to us and where we are at. You've built, you keep on building. An average person here looks at you and is like, oh my, this thing no day, this thing no be happen. On my own end, I've built stuff without a dime. You get? So I tend to come home. For me, that part, no day alien. You know, just an idea. You begin to build and then you discover that okay, this thing is live and this is what. So, but for the average mind, you've been there. That things that it will happen. You know, because I know that even if it takes 20 years, it will happen. Yeah. So it's, if you should counsel, like I said, like for this meeting, these numbers are too much. These days I'm important than quantity. You know, and I see they come to what here I want to do from you. Remy Joseph Dumajuku of blessed memory was the Secretary General of our one. He came to our house one morning. He looked at all of us. He said, "Make una no sit down look. Una no sit down look." For a generation that is in a haste. That's why these days people think I'm a Tinubu apologist. No, I am not. I only know that the strategy being employed would not do anything. You know, they were willing to die. You know, every time Nigerians come out to do protests, I'm the last person to adopt to it. Why? In 2020, NSAS was supposed to begin with the Lekki massacre. It was supposed to begin with that Lekki massacre, but that was not killed. You know, so one of the reasons why Nigeria cannot attain revolution is that we like to self-preserve. So, to everybody here, yeah, we feel like government now they cause all of these things and all of that. Funny enough, what we're fighting for is to make voting electronic. But if you make voting electronic, it doesn't stop votes buying. You go hold your electrical system, somebody will come, you're earning 70K. You have 4 children that are voting age. All he needs to do is to promise you 25,000 naira. What you're earning in a month, you're seeing it flash your eyes in a day. You go vote. He go give you what spot, you go vote. You go show, verify your face, you go finish. Poverty is at the core of where we are at. And the number one poverty is the mind. It's something you've always consistently spoken about. And while you were talking, I just think, as I go open one masterclass, make sure that just come meet us, smoke with ourselves, this poverty thing. Because it's a mind thing. The day I screamed from my father's old